Everybody, today I'm going to show you on this fake skin how to make your tattoos really pop and stand out more. I see a lot of very common and simple mistakes that tattoo artists make when they are designing their tattoos and also when they're executing them. So I want to share these things with you so in that way not only is your artwork going to pop more and look better, but also it's going to age better and look better over time. It's not going to fade as quickly and it's just going to settle into the skin a little bit better. So let's get right into it. All right, let me show you what I'm using today. I'm using FYT cartridges. We got a 7, a 5, and an extra tight 3 with a 15 curved mag. I'm guessing I'm not going to use the 5 liner, but I have it out anyway, just in case. I'm using the EP7 Plus. And then also we got Killer Bee, Big Sleep's Killer Bee Black, and then I've also broken it down into a gray wash system with a ridiculous amount of Vaseline, because Vaseline is the only way that you're able to get the ink off of these fake skins. It's really difficult with without Vaseline. It's basically impossible if you've never tried it. So this is the design that we're going to be doing today. We have this mandala with some geometric stuff in the background. And basically what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to tattoo this one time with the common mistakes that I see, and I'm going to show you then how to fix them. So I'm going to then go back through it and fix the mistakes that I've made and make it a stronger design. So follow along. All right, so the first thing that I'm going to be doing is obviously putting in the outline and the dots with a light gray wash for the background. Now, this isn't any type of groundbreaking information or anything like that, but the thing is, when you're doing background or you're just making your outline, you want to make sure that this is as exact as possible, especially with geometry, but obviously with any other style as well. You want to make sure that your lines aren't shaky. Now, parallel lines are really important as well. If they're supposed to be parallel, you want to make sure that everything is as exact as possible. Just because a strong tattoo design can only be as strong as its foundation, which is its outline. And you want to make sure that it's definitely super solid. So I have everything in. I got the outline and then also all the little dots just to outline the background in light gray wash so I didn't lose the stencil. The tattooing on a fake skin is super sketchy just because the stencil doesn't like to stay on. So I was a little bit scared to erase it. So that's why some of the lines aren't completely connected. I'm going to go back in there and fix all that. But either way, I'm going to go in here and shade, and I'm going to do it wrong in the way that I see people normally doing it. I'm going to come back, show it to you again, and then I'm going to fix all my mistakes. All right, I'm going to keep this quick because this is just the mistake part of the video, I guess you would call it. So I'm going in here in this shape with my mid-tone gray wash, and I'm just doing some very simple stippling just to get some of this shaded in. I'm going to do the same exact thing on the background with my mid-tone with this simple stippling, and then also I'm going to come in here and I'm going to use my mid-tone again just to do some of this gradient with my mag. So this is what we have so far. This is what I see a lot of tattoo artists do in their work, is they get scared to go too dark and they end up trapping themselves just in their mid-tone, and it makes their tattoos look flat. All right, we've completed the shading and also some of the stippling in the background, and we have some nice gradients, we have some nice lines, and you can leave it like this. It does look nice, but the problem is, besides the lines, all I used to shade was right here, my mid-tone. I didn't touch my darkest gray or my black for any of the shading, which means this is a very flat image. Even though there's a little bit of dimension because we do have shading, once this heals, that mid-tone is going to heal a lot lighter than it looks at first, and you're going to have a very flat tattoo. So what we're going to do is we're going to go back in, we're going to add some black for contrast. We're also going to do a couple things to the lines to vary the line weight, so then that way the mandala is pushed off the background. And then we're going to do some background shading as well to really separate the foreground and the background. And I'll show you the difference between this and a tattoo to where you vary the line weights, you add black and dark shading to get that contrast. The first thing that I'm going to be doing is going back in here and adding black to all the areas that I just previously used my gray tone in. Now, I would say the majority of tattoo issues that I see can be solved by just adding more black into a design. Obviously, you don't want to make it all muddied up with black. You have to make sure that it has the proper contrast and balance between light and dark. But the thing is, I think a lot of people are too scared of going too dark and making their tattoos muddy. That's something that I used to struggle with, and that's something that I still have to remind myself while I'm tattooing to make sure to push my contrast to the point of like, this might be a little too far, but also at the same time, you have to remember that this tattoo is going to age. This isn't a painting. This is staying inside of somebody's body for the rest of their lives, and over time, it's going to fade, it's going to age, and having strong black in your composition is definitely going to help it age better, and it's going to make the design stronger. Especially if you're working with somebody's skin that is a darker tone, you're going to really want to push that contrast and kind of almost eliminate the midtones, because on darker skin, if you're putting light tones on their skin, it's just going to end up either blending in or end up looking muddy. So I would say black is the number one important thing that you're going to want to try to implement into your designs if you're having trouble making them pop, and if you're feeling frustrated by having flat looking tattoos. I would say the biggest problem that I see next to not having enough black in tattoos is people only doing one line weight in a tattoo. Now, obviously with traditional, you can keep it simple, it works, but when you're trying to really make something stand out, I would say using varying line weights is one of the next most important things. As you can see, here's a side-by-side with the one singular line weight and then next to the one where I have the thicker outline all the way around. You can see that it's a really big difference just by adding that extra line around the entire mandala. It really pops it off the background without even any additional shading. Now, what I'm going to be going in and doing is adding some gradients within the stippled shapes on the inside of the mandala. I'm doing this with black. First, I put down that mid-tone like I talked about earlier, and what we're doing, once again, is trying to add more contrast. As you can tell, the entire theme of this video is around getting separation and contrast in your designs, and this is even super important in stippling. So doing the mid-tone down as a base coat, basically, with these shapes, I think is a really good way to start them, and then going back and starting in your darker area, and adding some black and then fading it out into that mid-tone, I think will give you really nice shapes, and that way it gives you a lot more depth and interest in your piece. So as you can see here, this is a much more interesting design now that we have those gradients instead of just one solid mid-tone. The last thing that I'm going to be doing to this piece is I'm going to be adding a shadow behind the mandala with my 15 curved mag. I'm going to be doing a smooth gradient from dark to light, fading out, so in that way I am showing that this mandala is on top of the background. Now, I'm going to be using my darkest tone. This is my closest cap to black. This is about a 75% gray wash, and this is going to really push the foreground forward and push the background backwards. Now, I used to be really scared to do this as well, because I always used to be very scared of going too dark. I didn't want my tattoos to be muddy. But the thing is, if you don't go dark enough, and you don't make your tattoos muddy, but then you make them very unimpressive. And I think it's really important once you learn that lesson is that you're going to be pulling much more interesting tattoos, and people are going to start to notice them a lot more. So once I started doing this to where I'm adding a shadow in the background to try to distinguish from the background and the foreground a lot more people started noticing, and a lot more people started liking the tattoos that I've been doing over the last, however many years. And lastly, what I'm going to be doing here is I'm going to be adding a little bit of shading around the outside of the plaque, trying to simulate, I guess, having this on a body part and pretending that there's a tattoo on the outside of the plaque, and just to add more contrast, more separation, just so this plaque is a little bit more interesting for me to hang on my wall. So that's the number one thing I want to leave you with, is just thinking about how you can make the design pop more with contrast by using black, darker shades and gradients, and also varying line weights. All right, so here's our finished product. As you can see, just thickening up the lines on the outside adding the background shading and also a little bit of shading in between the leaves of the mandala, it really made a big difference in how much contrast that you're able to see in this image. And now it's much more eye-catching. Not only will people be able to notice this from farther away and be able to tell exactly what it is, but also this is going to age much better than a low contrast tattoo. So this can be used with any style of tattooing. You could do this with color, you could do this with black and gray. Just upping your contrast and making things a little bit more separated when it comes to the foreground and the background. That will really make your tattoo stand out and people really start to notice. So if this video was helpful to you, I'm glad. If not, oh well, but I hope you have a good day.